Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Malanga, and I'm an educational technologist with Northern Buckeye Education Council. We're an Ohio ITC based in Archbold, and I'm coming to you today from the lovely city of Bryan, Ohio, home of the Dum Dum Sucker, Spangler Candy Company, and the Etch-a-Sketch was even developed here. My session today is about digital escape rooms, and I love my title, I Want My Students to Escape, adding digital escape rooms to your teaching toolbox. So I'm excited to be here with you today to present this. The agenda today, I'm going to give you some background on digital breakouts, what they are, and why we want to use them. There'll be a brief time for a challenge, and generally when I do this live, we actually do the challenge right there, but I'm going to have you guys just pause your video to make sure that you can compete with the challenge with us. We'll take some time to talk about the debrief process. Then we'll talk about planning a digital breakout, using Google for your digital games, and then I'm going to give you a bunch of examples and resources. So hopefully you're excited and ready to learn with me, so buckle up and let's get moving forward. First, a little bit of background on digital breakouts. What are they? Well, first, they're an escape room type game. And I don't know if you've ever been to an escape room, but my family and I love them. We compete in them all the time. And so it's basically a escape room type of game that you play in your classroom. It has educational content as part of it, and this educational content can be tied to the standards or not. It also is where students solve puzzles to break out of whatever room or whatever scenario you have given them. Why do we want to use digital breakouts? Well, they enhance metacognition, that thinking process of your students. It's really a great way to enhance that. But it also connects the mind, the body, and the learning environment in a way that not a lot of other things can. Students are using their mind, they're using their hands, and they're using their environment to get this done. It also teaches for transfer, which is something that's really important. These skills that the students learn when they do their digital breakouts transfer to the real world out in life. The skills, those soft skills, the grit, the resilience, those kind of things transfer to the real world. Also, they use the four C's. We hear a lot about the four C's, and this one touches every one of the four C's to help students get more involved. It promotes active learning. Students start sitting and getting, they're up and around, they're active, they're enjoying their learning. And it teaches that it's okay to fail. I talked about that grit and resilience. That is something that digital breakouts will help students to learn. It's really important skill. Students often don't have that grit and resilience, that can-do attitude, and this will help them and teach them it's okay to fail occasionally, because fail stands for first attempt in learning. This is a great graphic from Maria Galenas, done by Sylvia Duckworth. 10 reasons to play Breakout EDU. This is specifically about the Breakout EDU product, but this also relates to any of the breakout games that you might play. It's fun for everyone, adaptable to any subject area, promoting collaboration and team building, develop problem solving and critical thinking skills, enhancing communication, challenges players to persevere. It builds inference skills, that if this, then that. Students learn to work under pressure because in these breakouts, there's a time limit. It's definitely student-centered, and it's inquiry-based learning at its finest. So great reasons to do this. In an escape room, though, the story is the key. There has to be a compelling story. Why are you in this room that is locked? Why do you need to get out? The story provides context for that activities, and it gets this group immersed in the story. And so just a couple of examples. I did an escape room with another couple, and we were in a speakeasy. And so it was a room that looked just like a speakeasy, and we were able to find clues that related to that period of time, and it made it really exciting. The last breakout room I did was a space themed breakout room, and we were in a spacecraft, and there were buttons and computers and digital signs all around, and it was really, really cool. We were definitely immersed into that story. But in a digital breakout, that story becomes even more key, because you're not in a physical room and you can't put things around that look like you're in a spot. You can't immerse the students in with physical stuff, so you need the story. So here's a good example. Who let the bugs in? Oh no, our computer programs are buzzing and beeping, but not like they should. Bugs, real bugs, have gotten in and messed everything up. Please help rewrite the programs, beat the bugs, and break out. That is a compelling story. That gets students excited about what they're about to do. So now we come to the challenge. And again, if we were here in person together, I would definitely set a clock and we'd go through this challenge together, but we're not. So I'm hoping that you will take this challenge, take 10 minutes out, try to do the challenge to give yourself a better idea of what this is. You can just kind of pause the video as we do that. But here's what the challenge is. Again, your story. Today's lesson was supposed to take students on an exhibition to Jiagu National Park, but there's been a leak in your class. Secrets have been shared. Class is suspended until students learn the importance of protecting privacy online. A 7-letter lock has been placed on the teacher's lesson plan, and before classes can resume, you must unlock the code. Work fast because you only have 10 minutes until you're out of time. So I've got this website below. It's daddoes.tech/DBO for digital breakout. Okay, now we're here. This is the challenge I want to take you to. Again, the story is at the top of your page. This is a Google site, an example of a breakout done with a Google site. The lesson plan is locked. Here is where you're going to put your answer to your lock, and here are some things that you can use to help you get through. Now, there's a 45-minute timer on here, but we're going to do 10 minutes. So what I want you to do right now is set a timer for 10 minutes. I want you to pause the video and try to get through that in 10 minutes and see if you succeed. Good luck. Welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get your challenge completed and successfully unlock your lock and break out. I'm not going to give the answer here because if people haven't tried it, I don't want to spoil it for them. So this is the point where we talk about the debrief. And the debrief is really, really important because the breakout doesn't end when the game tasks are solved. Best magic can happen during the debrief. It's when you talk about what happened. It could be questions about the content itself, but more importantly, we're talking about the reflection of the team and collaborative process. This is the part we want our students to learn about. So we've got some reflection questions, and I've got a bunch that come up on the screen right now about contributing to your team, who had the opportunity to contribute, how did you make sure your ideas were heard, describe how another member of your team exemplified critical thinking. What would you do differently next time? I love asking that question of groups. You get a lot of good insight. Do you feel like your ideas were heard? And what puzzles did you find the most difficult? So these are some good reflection questions that we can use with our students. Again, it's not reflecting necessarily on the content, but the process as well. So let's talk about planning a digital breakout and what goes into that. So it really is 4 steps. So it's easy as 1, 2, 3, and 4. But first, we want to determine concepts that we're going to focus on. Okay, if this is a math breakout, are we going to focus on decimals? Or if an English breakout, is it vocabulary? What are the things, the concepts we want to focus on during the game? So that's the first step. But second, we're going to start some planning. We're going to plan out clues. We're going to plan out answers. We're going to plan out the layout of the game, how it's going to work. Third, we're going to work on creating those digital clues and the locks, any materials that you need to add to make this happen. And finally, you're going to put all the clues wherever it's going to be, whether it's going to be a form, a Google site, or however, that's where you're going to set it up. You're going to do that setup process. So again, easy as 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we'll talk about creating your breakout. We want to start with the content standards, okay? What are we going to teach and what standard, if at all? Then we're going to identify what the students should learn. So what are they going to pick up as part of this? Again, going back to my decimals, are they going to learn place value? What are they going to do there? Next, we want to create a story or theme for the breakout. And as I said before, this is really, really important to have a story or a theme for your breakout. It really helps set the scene for your students. Then we're going to decide what type of locks to use. There's a couple ways we can do this. We can do things in a linear fashion where the locks have to be completed in a specific order. Or we can do nonlinear where locks can be completed in any order. Now, I think a lot of people might say, well, definitely want it linear. I want to control how this goes. But let me just put out a little plug there for nonlinear. When you're working in an escape room and you're under pressure, sometimes you're starting to work and try to get one clue done and you can't figure it out, but you can drop it then and go to another clue and maybe that'll spark something else. So I've always been a big fan of nonlinear breakouts. Then we're going to create our clues. And again, these clues can be digital clues. You can leave clues around the room, however you want to set things up. You're going to create the breakout itself. And then what are you going to use to do that? Is it going to be a Google form? Are you going to use a Google form with a sheet or a form with a drawing or a Google site? And then we're going to create a shared folder in Google Drive to organize all the content. That's really, really important. We're going to put our Google form in there. If we have a site, we're going to put it in there. Any content that we're going to give our students, we're going to put in that shared folder in Drive so it can be found really, really easily. And then this is really, really important. We need to test the breakout and redesign if necessary. Have somebody else test it for you. Have another teacher, have a student in a different class, have one of your own kids test the breakout, because the first couple of times you do this, you may have to make some changes and redesign it. If you want some help getting started, there is a digital game template from Breakout EDU that you can download to help you think about creating your own digital games. Now, Breakout EDU is a separate product, and you don't need this product to create digital games. You can use Google to replicate that experience. But Breakout EDU has a lot of good questions to work you through. And if you click the blue button on this page that says Digital Breakout EDU Game Template, you will be taken to a screen that looks like this. Okay, now we're here on the Breakout EDU digital game template, and you can see that it's got a lot of space for like who the game designer is, the title, what grade level it is, and then some game information here. It encourages you to have a catchy story, and then you can work on your lock combinations and puzzle explanations. So what is the combination to your lock? What is the explanation why you need it? And again, reflection questions at the end. So this is a great tool that you can use to get things back, get around and get all things organized and put back where they need to be for your game. So let's talk now about using Google for digital games. Google's free, we all have access to it. So we can use Google Forms and or Google Sites to do digital games. Google Forms is a great place to create the questions for your lock combinations. We're going to use something called response validation on each question that keeps the question locked until the students input the correct combination. Then we can use Google Sites to tell your story. So a lot of people combine a Google site with a Google form. You don't necessarily need to do that. It just depends how involved you want to get. Most of the ones that I've seen that are really good combine a site with a form, but you can use the top of the Google form to tell the story as well. We're going to set up our Google form with questions for each lock. So these are some of the lock types that you can use. A word lock. So we want this is case sensitive. So we want to specify in instructions if it's going to be all capitals, capital, lowercase, how it's going to work. We can also have a letter lock. This is different from a word lock in that the letter lock doesn't spell out a word. It's just some random letters. Again, case sensitive, we want to specify that in the instructions as well. We can have a directional lock. So this is great to use with a map, for example. You can have up, down, right, and left, and you can use U, D, R, and L to signify that in your locks. We can also use a number lock. So I played an escape room where the number was a key to a hotel room. And so 1, 2, 3, or whatever the number would be. Finally, we can do a color lock. Things like red, blue, green, yellow, purple. Use the first letter of the color to represent that color. And so we can use this as well. And this is great for younger kids as well. But basically 5 different kinds of locks that you can set up. We're going to use the description field in Google Forms for instructions or hints. Now that description field is hidden under the More menu, those 3 dots, and you can see it on the screen. When you do that, you can basically get a field right below the name of the lock, and this is where you would put any hints or instructions on how to complete the lock. So in this scenario, this is a 5-digit number. You can see that. And then we're going to use response validation to test the answer. Response validation can also be found under that 3 dots menu. And what this does is it gives us a space where we can choose what kind of response we want, set what the response is equal to, and then provide a message to the student if they do not get it right. So that's how we would use response validation. And don't worry, I'll show this live how this works. When creating the form, we want to do several things. We want to make sure that the locks are required. Make sure we use response validation. We want to give a custom error text. Is that going to be try again? Is that going to be still locked? Or is that going to be a hint? Okay. And we want to remind students to use capital letters if that's what you want to do. Talk about formatting a date lock, color locks, directional locks. We want to describe all those using the description field. And then we can put our reward or certificate or surprise in the submission response message of the Google form. You don't always have to give a physical reward. Sometimes a digital sticker or a digital image can be your reward too. In fact, I would not get so hung up on providing physical rewards because then the students will expect it every time you do it. All right, so let's talk about cheaters. On Google Forms, when you use response validation, you can right click on the Google form and go to the source code and see the answers to the questions. That's not good. You don't usually get this with younger kids, but sometimes those upper level kids like to cheat a little bit. And so we can use regular expression validation and use web coding. So I'm going to walk you through this and then I'm going to show it to you live. So we're going to use some web coding to avoid cheaters. If you're not familiar with the web coding, don't worry about it. It's an easy way to do it and we'll show you here. It basically uses a series of brackets and characters to set up the different words. So let's just say the answer to your question, Locke, is the word mushroom, okay? So here's what mushroom would be in lowercase, okay? Now this is pretty interesting, okay? Because what it basically says is that character, we have the brackets, the square brackets. The character means not. So when you have A to L and N through Z, so not A through L or N through Z, the answer is going to be M, okay? And we have a 1 in the curly brackets after that. And that is how many times M appears. You can see as I move forward, the next one's going to be U, so not A through T or V through Z, one of those, and so on and so on. If you look towards the end, you'll see a 2 in curly brackets. And what that is that's our double O for mushroom. So if you look at the screen right now, there is our word mushroom spelled out in web coding, okay? We can also use uppercase, okay? So for uppercase, we've got the same thing, except all the characters in the brackets are uppercase characters. So again, here's what your word spells out to. Okay, how about numbers? Can we do numbers with this? Of course we can. These are numbers. So here's an example. And what this is going to be is 97. So not 0 through 8, one of those. And then not 0 through 6 or 8 through 9, one of those, giving you 97. So that's an example of the web coding to avoid cheaters. Okay, we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. Setting up your Google site, you can use the Google site to write your story with text boxes and images, and then you can insert that Google form that has the questions into your site. What you want to do is you want to embed that form so it's visible on your site and make sure it's big enough so the students don't have to scroll endlessly to view it on your site. We want to share the site appropriately and publish the site for the students. Okay, so here's the point where we're going to talk about response validation and demonstrate this live. All right, I'm here on our blank Google form that I'm going to be using to demonstrate the locks for you. Pretty easy to do. Just create yourself a new form and title it whatever you want. In my first question, I'm going to do a word lock. And when I type that word lock, it's actually going to change over to a short answer for me. So now I'm going to come on and make this required because I think it's important that we make the question required. Next, I'm going to come here to the description. And this is the point where I'm going to talk about what the clue actually is. So this is going to be one word, all caps, okay? And then I'm going to come here to the three dots menu again and do response validation. When I do that, you'll see there's a couple of different options here. We can validate by number, text, length, regular expression. Now you could use number or text, but that kind of leads to the cheating we talked about. It's totally fine to do that if you have younger kids or kids that you don't think are gonna do that. But if you want to be safe, you can use regular expression. And when you do regular expression, we don't want it to be contains, we want it to be matches. And I kind of cheated here, so I went in and pasted the response validation, and I'm going to make sure there was a space at the end, and I want to delete that out there. Because if there's extra spaces, it won't match, it won't be exact. And so we want to make sure that it's like that. And so now this is the notation for uppercase mushroom. So I'm going to do a custom error text. This is the text that you would get if the word isn't correct. So I'm going to say, nope, try again. All right, so there we go. If I go and I preview this form, I can see that it's a word lock, one word, all caps. If I type pizza and then I go to the next thing or try to submit, I get nope, try again. If I type starfish, nope, try again. If I type mushroom, you'll notice that when I go on, I'm able to submit now because that's the correct answer. So that's how you show that the lock is open. Now, I want to show you something that I discovered and I can't find a reason for. I've looked all over Google, I've tried to figure this out, but for some reason, Google is not recognizing the case sensitivity of this answer. So if you remember, I went back in here and I actually put in that I was doing all caps, okay? But if I come back to my form and I take this out and I type mushroom, all lowercase, you would think that I would get an error because it's not all caps. But for whatever reason, I don't. And I think this is a bug within Google. And so we want to encourage people to do all caps, but in reality, it appears like the all caps isn't working to be validated. So for example, in true validation, if this is all caps and you type lowercase, this would come up as a mistake, where here it is coming up as fine. Real quick, I will just show you, I went and typed that in there and I validated, and it does say case sensitive. And so it feels like that should happen. But for whatever reason, it's not happening. So just be aware of that we are asking for all caps. We're putting the all caps in, but for whatever reason, it's not working. All right, now I'm gonna go to my next lock. We're gonna hit the plus sign, add a question. Gonna make this a number lock. Again, it's gonna change to a short answer for me. I'm gonna make it required. I'm gonna come down and say description, and I'm gonna say 5-digit number, okay? And then I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna go to response validation. Okay, and that's where I set it up. Again, I could use number and just put in whatever I want, but I'm gonna actually use regular expression again, and I'm gonna change it to matches, and I'm gonna copy my pattern in. And what this one does is this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll show you this real quick. This is 1, the first one is 1. I want one of those. Then this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. And again, that works the same way. And now my custom error text is nope. And then I'm gonna come here and practice, go to my preview. I've got my word lock there. And if I come in here 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's nope. But if I come in here and I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it fixes it. So basically, that's how that works. So again, you can totally come into your Google form and use any of these numbers or text or anything like this. But if you're worried about the kiddos cheating, you can do that. Just to show you an example, if I come in here and I say number lock, again, number lock number 2, and I make it required, I can come in here to description and I can say 3-digit number. I can come back down here to response validation. I can say number equal to, and I could say 3 or 421. And then I could say, no, sorry. Okay, I can do that. When I come out here, same way, even though I didn't use that, if I do 213, no, sorry, 421, it's right. So again, you could use any of those ways to do it. The response validation is what makes this the secret sauce here. If I get something wrong, I have to keep trying again. When I'm all done, I get all the locks to be correct. So if I come in and I do mushroom, whoops, I said all caps, so let's make it all caps. I did a 5-digit number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those are unlocked now because you don't see any mistakes, and I can come in and I could submit it. And here where it says your response has been recorded, this is where I would put your congratulations or what have you. So there you go. That's the way that you can get that done in your Google form. I know there's been a lot of information given in this presentation. I want you to be able to go ahead and try this out on your own. So I provided a bunch of resources for you, and I will give those to you right now. We have some brainstorming resources, templates, samples, and more, and you can find it at daddoes.tech/DBO resources. And DBO, Digital Breakout, is all caps in this one. daddoes.tech/DBO resources, how to get to that resources page. Here's that resources page. When you click on the link, there's a PDF here. You can either print it or download it. I've got the link to this document, a link back to my presentation. Here's some brainstorming templates, some digital lock templates that are already built for you. Tools to help create clues, more templates. This is information on the coding. And then there's some creators and examples down here of ones. I do want to show you real quick this 50 digital breakout resources if it'll open up for me. This is all sorts of different ways to make clues here. So this is creating barcodes and QR codes. This is a fake Google Doc. This is a headline for a news broadcast, a message using Google Earth images, a fake newspaper clip, all sorts of different stuff. A ransom note, um, text messages, airline tickets, all sorts of cool stuff you can use. And again, that's on that resources page. All right, some final thoughts before we go. For further thought and discussion, how might you use this in your classroom? Is this something you could see yourself using? And what topic would be awesome for using a digital breakout? Could you do this virtually? How? Things are looking good for schools to reopen potentially this fall in person, but if you had to do this virtually, could you do this virtually? And I do want to thank all the contributors that gave me the icons for today, all of them for the Noun Project. Here's my contact information. Again, my name is Chris Malanga with Northern Buckeye Education Council based in Northwest Ohio. Please feel free to reach out to me. I've got my email, my direct link. You can follow me on Twitter or go to my website, daddoestech.com. I hope you've enjoyed this digital breakout session. You found yourself some great ideas, and you'll be able to start using this in your class this year. Have a great rest of your summer and a great school year. Bye, everybody.